And then, alrighty. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of North Node Live. Hello, Angie.
Hi, Maggie. How are you?
I am doing beautiful today. How about yourself?
Good. I'm looking out at a beautiful landscape, and I'm happy to be here in air conditioning.
Hey, happy hump day, right?
Yeah.
So we are back this week. We've got an episode I think we are calling Beyond the Journey. I think in today's day and age, well, especially with kind of what's happening at the federal level here with President Donald Trump signing that executive order a few weeks back, essentially just wanting to fast track research and findings for psilocybin and ibogaine. I think overall prohibition has crumbled, but yeah, there's just been a lot of curiosity. And I think something that I'm trying to, continuously do is just have conversation and a little bit more access to the full spectrum of working with this medicine. And I think that's one of my goals for today's show. I don't know how we want to break into it, but if you have anything to add, feel free.
No, I mean, I agree with you, Maggie. I think the conversation is becoming more mainstream. I think that there's a lot of curiosity around psychedelics. I think there's a lot of curiosity around what they do and like how to work with them. So I think what we're talking about today is really important. Back in the olden days, for me, working with something like this wasn't working. It wasn't a working relationship. It was a fun or like an experiment or, doing something naughty. And I think that what I've learned in my, time with this work is that this life is work. But like when you work with the medicine, when you talk about meeting it halfway, when you work with the medicine, you get more beauty, you get more out of it. And there are amazing teachings that come from just using the medicine that if you don't bring those forward with you or integrate, which we'll talk about today, or prepare for what might come, it's not all for naught, but it certainly could be better. And it's kind of like if you're going to go run a marathon, you might be able to cross that finish line. But if you prepare by training and eating properly and getting enough sleep and doing all the things that your body needs to optimize, you're going to have a better outcome. And then your results are also going to show that as well. And so I think that's kind of what we're talking about today.
Absolutely. You put that so beautifully. I think it's exactly that, though. It's the more that we know from working with people and just our lived experiences with the medicine as well, it's become crystal clear to me that absolutely the more preparation, it's not necessarily, obviously intention, which we're going to get to is very important, but I want to touch on, to me, when we enter these ceremonies and spaces, sometimes more than intention is just allowing yourself to be open, and the curiosity and the call is could be enough. And we're going to get there and we're going to talk about it all. I think it's such a great place, Lo, to really just, let's start with preparation. I mean,
great.
I think when I first started working with this medicine, I had zero preparation. But I think that for me and working with people, transparency is probably pillar number one, and just kind of walking through people through the entire experience, from this preparation phase, which we're touching on, through the journey, what to expect, and then this integration phase. But yeah, just kind of prepping and setting the scene and setting the stage. And really, I think every body is vastly different. And
Mhm.
the more we work with this medicine and understand, we understand just how vast the spectrum of benefits are perceived to be. Or studies
Mhm.
are showing, more and more, whether it's
Yeah,
depression,
or proving to be.
PTSD.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I think, when it comes to preparation, everybody has wildly different goals, and they want to see different shifts. And some, I like to kind of call some of these shifts or intentions like areas of focus, because I think that people can get a little overwhelmed when it comes to setting their intentions for these journeys. So my point is, the medicine, at least with me, has helped in, and which I talk about all the time, in so many different capacities, whether it's my battle with addiction to alcohol, just prepping me for transition and change in my life,
Mhm.
and hopefully experiencing like a softening. So rather than living each day in fight or flight and fear, it's like, okay, I trust, learning to trust myself and my environment, and taking aligned action. But yeah, I think when we're talking about preparation, intentions and goal setting and areas of focus are probably um, right up there, because we really just want to understand each individual, um, at at a certain, you know, very individual level,
Right.
understanding what they're needing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when I'm working with somebody, I'm actually going to ask them what what's going to make this a win for them. So I want to know, how where are they most comfortable? What makes them feel the most regulated? I We definitely want to set intentions, but I also want them to explain to me what their expectation is, right? Because we kind of almost have to put those aside. So just by putting them out, expressing them verbally, I'm like, okay, what are your expectations? Because like we all have expectations in life, but often we feel like if we don't meet them, it's a
Mhm.
failure. So I want to talk about that, but also say like we can bring intention to this, but we want to make this a win. So I'm asking people, where are you the most comfortable? Like you want to we're going to prepare by getting the best sleep, like eating the best, most clean food, all the stuff that you would do if you were going into, some sort of like physical, I don't know, competition almost in a way.
Mhm.
I mean, I think about like the list of how we have people, you kind of have to let go and trust yourself. You have to trust the medicine. And so you prepare up to the point where like you're like, okay, now I can like you're letting your high schooler go off to college. You're like, you have to be like, I trust what I've done. I've
Yeah.
trust all that I've put in, so I can let this go now. And that
Mm.
is a lot of the preparation, right? Is understanding where our clients feel the most comfortable, what makes them feel regulated, where do we need to be that allows for that. But then
Yeah.
up to the point of the ceremony, let's make sure you are the healthiest version of you can be.
Mhm. Absolutely. I think, that is such a beautiful way of explaining, some of these extras or extra intention that you can put toward your, journey, that can help you, just feel good going into it, knowing that you've taken certain measures that have been suggested to, come into this very important day, just feeling regulated and centered, and yourself. And I think that leads me into like another part of preparation, like, yeah, just set and setting, which is a
Mhm.
common term in the psychedelic space. But yeah, what do we mean by set and setting? And I think when it comes to working with my clients, one of the first things, I mean, obviously, we want to talk about being in probably the most comfortable space that resides for themselves, the someone who's journeying.
Mhm.
Um, but I am really quick to remind my clients, this is a journey and it can be messy. So this isn't about remaining stationary on your back for 4 to 6 hours. I really like to suggest, when it comes to releasing emotion, it can be really great to move your body, whether that be
Mhm.
into fetal position or just opening your hips. Because truly, the matter of fact, or the way that I see these journeys, it's moving things, it's release, it's
Mhm.
pushing
Mhm.
stagnancy, and so I think for me, and I was going to ask you, Ange, often when I'm doing journey work, I feel like for me to kind of get taken, or we use the term surrender, but
Uh-huh.
for me, I feel like I have to like almost conjure emotion, like as soon as I'm able to kind of like recall a situation, or conjure some tears around something, to me, for me, that's a level of surrender. Has any
Mm.
does this ring a bell for you? Or I was talking about this with a client just last week. I think he was having not it's not that he was having a hard time dropping in or anything, but I suggested that when I bring awareness around emotion in my journeys, it kind of takes me somewhere.
I love that. Okay, so I use sound in music often when
Mm,
I'm journeying. It can conjure emotion, but it can open me up in a way that the lack of sound can't. And I don't mean it has to be music, but I mean hearing nature, like the wind or water or birds. Sometimes it is like actual instruments or voices. So I often will use music or sound or being in nature. I feel like that helps to get, to drop in, so to speak,
mm,
to use your words. But I also think that there is, in every case, the medicine has is its own intelligence. So
mm,
it will do for that individual what that individual needs at the time. And I can only liken it to an experience I've had where I didn't have any visions. I didn't have any of the, like, what people would call hallucinations. I had a body experience. So I've had experiences where the medicine was working just purely physically on me, where like I
mm,
just felt in every fiber of my body the medicine was working on moving stuff around and releasing. And like when you talk about stretching or moving, like I didn't get, and then, there's others. I mean, we've both done this medicine quite a bit ourselves. So there's times that I've seen a magical, mystical things and visions. And then there's these other moments where it's mostly just physical. So
mm.
I don't call that like a bad journey. It was what I needed at the time. Right. And so,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Um,
so, yeah, I mean,
I
I guess I'm not really answering your question, but I'm leading into
no,
something else.
no,
Um,
I love it. I
yeah.
think though that this gets back to expectations though. I think that people hear of the potential happenings during journeys, and are you going to be speaking to your ancestors or Jesus, or
Yeah.
and so I think it's safe to say, at least in my experience with psilocybin, I never get what I'm expecting. So I've
Yes.
I've had I've had a in my early days journeying, actual times, I've taken a significant amount, 5 grams, and not feeling anything, and really negative in my head. Oh, this medicine is not doing anything. And then before I know it, I'm, connected to grandpa. But but then also, yes, I had a client experience recently. It was very similar to what you stated, and we were out in nature, and sometimes so it was very body only, but he could feel, it was no messages that he could put into words, but it was these sensations, and um, yeah, very in the body.
Mhm.
And I think like there was a moment where he may have had, I don't know, was just expecting a little bit more, or, and I actually did bring up the idea. We were outside, so I thought maybe the distractions of nature, the trees and the clouds and the, are visually captivating and maybe pulling away from So we did explore going inside, and it just overall, his particular journey was just very in the body, and it was something that unfolded over the course of the next couple weeks through microdosing, essentially, where a lot more of it began to make sense, just because it was just kind of, and that's a whole nother piece that we'll touch on. But
Right.
yeah, my personal opinion is any expectations we have, we can kind of kindly throw them out the window.
Kindly, exactly. And we're kind of already moving into the actual journey, right? So we could
Mm.
move into starting to talk about that a little bit. Because I think, you were talking about the absence of sound or the absence of sight. And those are other things that we can talk, that we offer up or suggest to our
Mm.
clients. I know often I'll say, have an eye mask around. If you want to really go internal and go inside, let's just block everything out, right? Setting, right? So we're talking about our mindset around all of
Mhm.
this, our expectations, our curiosities, what we think is going to happen, what we hope will happen. But then we have
Mhm.
our setting, like the actual physical environment that we're
Mm.
giving
Mhm.
ourselves. And so whether that has sound or light or lack thereof, right? Or
Mhm.
um, my presence in the room with them or my presence not in the room with them. And so
Mhm.
this is something we talk about with our clients, right? We set up like, what's the best optimum experience for you? And some people don't know, and that's okay. And we'll work through that. But, a lot of it is letting go. Right. And that is the
Right.
hardest piece for people. And
Mhm.
that's often what holds people back from even experimenting with this medicine or
Mhm.
looking at it as an option,
Mhm.
because we are controlling creatures. We want to control our environments. We want to control as much as we can because it makes us feel safe. And the
Mhm.
act and the idea of letting go is
Mm.
vulnerable to a point that's so uncomfortable, right? For some people. And that's why
Yeah.
educating on this stuff is so important, because you and I know.
Boom. Yeah. And
Bam.
I mean, I think when we say letting go or surrender, I mean, I've been told that both those terms can be triggering, for people. But I think what I would like to preach, or, my whole point is, for me and how I feel about working with this medicine, is it allows me to let go because
Mm,
I feel, for whatever reason, the support. I feel held. I feel like I'm in a space where the medicine has provided me access to acknowledge and transmute and release. And for that, I am, and that's the magic in my mind. So
mhm.
I think it, obviously, if people are, thinking about journeying and this is their first time, and there's always this level of, and even to this day, after many, many ceremonies, you don't know what to expect. So yes, it can be absolutely overwhelming, and especially if you're new to it.
Mhm.
But I think, again, it's just this idea, like letting go also involves being open
Yeah.
to honoring what might come,
Right.
and just knowing, you know, I I think about this in my head, and I don't necessarily verbalize it often, but I think to myself sometimes, like, what could be the worst that could happen in a journey for me? And it's like, am I going to be told or shown, some murky, something that I've suppressed, and that might be the case. People do have journeys that bring to light something that's happened, right? That they've forgotten and suppressed on purpose, but you've already lived it.
Yeah.
So if your biggest concern is kind of reliving that, it absolutely, the hardest work ever, but I believe the most important work that we can do, to move past, to transmute, to carry on, to keep
Yes.
evolving and not identifying. And, so much of this revolves around the research that we know that this medicine does disrupt our default mode network, which we talk about all the time. And I know
I was just going to bring this up. So go into it because it's
you,
huge. It's
you can, girlfriend.
okay. Well, I just want to okay. So Maggie just said default mode network,
Mhm.
often acronym is DMN. Okay. Is the brain network that tells us the story of like me, right? Quote unquote me, right? It's my brain that helps create my identity, my memories, my future plans, my worries, my inner critic, my beliefs about myself, how I fit into this world that is my brain when it like in idle mode. That's how it's all of those things that I feel like it is me, right? Or you, how you think of yourself, right? So
the constant narrative.
It's the constant narrative. It's a brain's narrator, right? We call it an ego, but it's like your brain's narrator, like all day long saying things like, I always blank, or I never blank, or I'm the kind of person who this, or people don't understand me, or I'll never heal, or I don't deserve love, or all the stuff. These are the stories that aren't reality, right? They're our story. They're the story that our person is telling us, right? And it continually is stitching together. And it truly, like, we have this network because this is like an evolution thing. It's actually beautiful in a way. It's what creates our memories. It pulls our beliefs together because of our experiences. It sets our goals. It's our emotions. It creates our experience for us. It's actually
oh, sorry.
Go.
And it's very comfortable.
It's so comfortable, right? This is the
that's
piece
all we know. That's all we know. We can't, because we are just so often thinking the same. We're in the same ruts and the same patterns and the same. So it's so very comfortable. Sorry to interject.
Right? No, I love that you interjected, right? Because while it's saving us for helping us plan for like not making a mistake again, right? Like we learn from our mistakes. It also has a downside, right? Okay, because this creates suffering by like ruminating, where you can't stop thinking about things, or depression, thinking I'm worthless, or anxiety, where like, what if I contaminate something, right? Or like PTSD, like reliving trauma repeatedly in our brains, or reliving that same trauma, or addiction, right? Addiction, where like, I need this to feel okay. Like, I'm not going to feel okay if I don't have it, or even like the perfectionist. Right.
Yeah.
Or on the opposite end, the perfectionist, like, I'm never enough. Right. Or we could even talk about the narcissist. I'm everything. Right. But the default mode network loves habits. Okay. So how does this all pull together? Right. It pulls together because what we're asking people to do when they take this medicine, and what the medicine does, is if you surrender, you will actually have an experience where your brain will shut that part down. And psilocybin is not going to erase who you are, okay? But it temporarily quiets that brain network, that default mode network, who's rehearsing the same story over and over and over again. And in the quiet space of a journey, this is like my favorite thing. In the quiet space of the journey is when people find enough distance in their thoughts. I'm sorry. I'm going to mute myself for a second.
I was going to just, I do like how you say there's a quieting of the default mode network. I've also been learning to say it's a disruption, meaning, those patterns are changed. So whether it's new regions of the brain communicating together, new neural pathways, just a disruption of the program that's been running, right? And I think that is exactly where you're leading and going. It's this idea of like letting go, surrendering, almost like merging your racing mind. It's almost like the medicine pulls, when you're sitting with it, it's taking you to a different perspective. It's taking you like almost like this bird's eye view, or you're able to, it's not about disassociating. It's about just perceiving what you've been through and acknowledging, but also just, with a softer undertones and more capacity to see it from not that harsh critic. And I think that is the magic piece. And I think for many people, when they are, first learning to journey, it is really about learning about some of these techniques where we can, when I offer medicine, sound is huge. Also just remaining regulated kind of during that come up. So you're able to kind of surrender easier because you're centered and you're not
Mhm.
dysregulate, you're, again, these steps that can kind of like really help
Mhm.
you to gain maximum, I don't know, enjoyment and benefit. But yeah, I think that we're talking about what happens in the ceremony now, but once we kind of figure out this idea of surrendering or letting go or tuning this off, you know, these are things that we can do in our everyday practices without medicine to find that
Exactly.
space again, to get to
Exactly.
that space. I call it home. I feel
Yeah.
connected to my spirit body. I feel open to receiving what insights the medicine has for me, or what insights my meditation has for me, or what insights yoga has for me. But yeah, it's really just entering this experience feeling centered, curious, and open.
I agree. And most people can't even access that. And that's the piece that I think, if we can let ourselves be vulnerable enough and open enough to open this door that psilocybin can open, right?
Mm.
It is, people, I have yet to work with a client that goes, oh my God, like
Mm.
that. Now I get it. Now I get
Mhm.
it. Or yet to work with a client who doesn't want more necessarily of
Mm.
that. Like, that was such a relief to
Mm.
let go and distance myself from that constant hamster wheel
Oh,
of
I mean,
thoughts, beliefs, and to be able to see myself with fresh eyes.
mhm, mhm.
It's such a gift. It's such an amazing gift, and that and it's a door that gets opened. It doesn't I wouldn't say the door ever shuts, but it's like that. When that door opens, that's why you and I talk so much about integration,
Mm.
because it is inviting you in. You can choose to walk over that threshold, or you can be like, I'm going to shut that door. Like, I would tell you, everyone I've worked with, not one person has ever decided to shut that door.
Mm.
They
I
are all like, I want to walk right through that door, and
Mhm.
I want to see what's on the other side. And
Yeah.
truly, what I think is on the other side is a more authentic you, a more truer you, a more graceful you, a more forgiving you, not just for yourself, but for others, and a more connected human.
Yes. Yeah,
So
I kinda wanna, break or unpack kind of, talking about a breakthrough experience or journey, and then, yeah, ultimately, like, what does the start of integration look like? And, I was reading, or there was something on social media the other day, and somebody had stated that they work in the medicine space, and one things that they tell their client after a large dose psilocybin journey that they guided is, and it really made me think, is, I think it's to keep your experience to yourself for some time. And I'm going to just touch on kind of my opinion around it. But I think when we talk about inner journey work, and if you're new to it, or expectations, a lot of your journey, and this has happened to me, is occupied around, how am I going to share this experience? What am I going to tell my friends? They all know I've been doing, what if it's not special or crazy, or, and so you're already like trying to make stories around your experience and put labels to it, before you've really had time to synthesize and unpack and lean into the integration, which we're there right now. But I think it's something that this person was suggesting, even journaling can start
yeah.
creating like a narrative around this experience. So yeah, I just was throwing it out there.
Well,
But I
I would
think,
just want to go back to
yeah.
this quietness,
Mm.
innerness. Maggie, you touched on a really important subject there. Is staying with oneself and
Mm.
keeping what happened to to yourself for a while, and letting that resonate. So
Mm.
uncomfortable for some people. I get it. It really is. But
Mhm.
that's why journaling, like you said, is so very important. Like,
Mm.
and I think you're talking, are we moving past like the actual journey now, or like the inner journey? And I mean, you were about to jump into something and I
Well,
interrupted you.
oh, no, no, no. I think that, ultimately what I stand by is these experiences, these days, they're your day. So if you're in ceremony, it's your day for exploration. It's your day for whatever's most comfortable. It's your call. You know, some people definitely want to have a journal nearby, or some people music is just too much. Anyway, my point is, I think there's multiple ways that we can integrate and we can talk about it, but also I just want to honor that the space, the timing after your profound experience or your breakthrough journey, and really keeping it to yourself for a moment is equally as important as it is to share and honor the experience at some point with people who respect and support you. So it's kind of like, I like to talk about psilocybin as such a great self-discovery tool. I mean, obviously, I think the more guidance and intention and responsibility you have around your journey, amazing. But also, to me, psilocybin gives me that space to really um, go inward and inner journey. And I think the more that you understand, or again, we keep talking about this trusting in the medicine and trusting in yourself to meet it halfway and kind of trusting in the process. Um, Integration is wildly different for each person, but I think once you kind of get down, almost like rituals in a way, like I know when I have a profound journey or a large dose journey and I'm looking to microdose for a few weeks and really take advantage of this critical learning period, which is this integration 2 to 3 weeks. It's, yeah, how can I at least daily get into nature, or this whole thing, taking pause, turning the mind off, feeling that connection. I'm microdosing. How can I Journaling is not my forte, but I am into scripting, I guess. I like to just go crazy. But yeah, for me, it's meditation. It's getting vitamin D. It's getting good rest. It's having conversations,
Yeah.
when I'm ready to share some of these insights and profoundness, or all of the things that are ineffable, actually. But yeah, finding people who are going to hold space to hear me and share, and I think that's why integration is like truly never ever ending, because once you start kind of learning to integrate, or when emotions do rise, rather than shoving them away, sitting through that, leaning through that, like it just becomes kind of this continuous thread. And I think so many of us, I always say this example, but you can go to a yoga class, you can have a profound illumination. You can go sit in the jungle with ayahuasca and have 3 nights of profound illuminations, but then they can say, bye.
Yeah. Then what?
Good
Then
luck.
what? Yeah.
Then what? So, yes, it's this combination of honoring the experience personally and what you've given yourself permission to explore, and like holding on to that. And then, when you're ready, and trying to like kind of cultivate and embody, and integrate the experience into your daily life, that's a whole kind of another level of the work. And
Yeah.
so
Sometimes the most important piece.
yes, absolutely. Um, so yes, I think one thing with North Node, or a big thing with North Node, is really this integration piece, and just continuously honoring conversation around all of it, and honoring our experiences. And I just remember when I was new to working with the medicine, and I was having essentially mystical experiences. Um, I didn't tell anyone because I thought it was too wild and I'm just high. And I actually, like you had mentioned earlier in this show, doing something bad. And, but here I was, like, literally what I felt like real time reversing my depression, and like not really able at first, feeling like I can share with anyone, and just kind of like, again, just feeling like the narrative was like I'm doing something wrong, and and so it's so important to me that with this medicine, because it's so responsible and can provide transformation, when especially when the more responsible and intentional you are with working with it, it all of it is never ending work and
Yeah.
hard work, but important work.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to unpack, right? I mean, that's a lot of reasons why I think, perhaps you were not sharing as much as you're like, you were unpacking a bunch of stuff that you were like trying to fit the pieces together. Okay. And so I think that that's a big part of the integration too, just to touch on like why having a coach or why having an integration, like North Node or URI, like having somebody who has lived experience with a similar situation that has the vocabulary of a journey is important. Okay. Because trying to explain to somebody who hasn't had this experience what this experience was for you, that words don't even suffice. They just don't. And sometimes it's just sitting in a space with somebody where you're almost like just nodding your head and you're just like, yep. Like you don't even have to say anything. But truly the relationship with the outside world is where you can start your new patterns and your new, you can make some different decisions in life. And that's where I always say to everyone I work with that, out of a journey, you're still at the same point, but you can point your toes in a slightly different direction. And you can start making some nuanced changes that you want to make or you've decided to make. And they shouldn't be monumental. We don't want to make monumental changes. We don't want to blow up the mothership. We don't want to blow up everything. We want to make some nuanced changes in life. And hopefully that narrative that you got from your journey will start threading through what you do and the choices that you make. And eventually, in a case like mine, I look back to the person I was a decade ago, like there's a huge delta between that person and who I am today. But if I go back to, a year or two or three or four, like it got smaller and smaller, but like I wasn't making monumental changes. I wasn't making big changes in my life, but I was nudging my toes slightly in a different direction to like a more authentic me and things that made me feel more regulated. Because I think a lot of us in life are taught to do things that don't allow us to feel comfortable and safe. And so we reach to outside resources to make us feel that way. Drinking, any sort of social elixir, or amphetamines or whatever to get us through the school or get us through the this or that, like, because we're not regulated.
Yeah.
And we've been continually making choices that people have told us we should make, or our ego is telling us we should make. So,
Yeah, I think we all need to cope in some manner and some way. And I just find myself more and more often just talking with people and clients about life when you're not with medicine, and how I think when you are with the medicine, it shows you these glimpses of just lighter scenarios. And um, it's like, how do you embody kind of like this relief that the medicine has kind of shown to help people who, especially those that are, treatment resistant. And again, the people where nothing seems to be working, it's almost just this sense of relief for the first time in so many years.
Yeah.
And it's really like, how do you like bottle that up? Like, it exists, you're feeling it in the moment and ceremony, and how do we capture that?
How do
And
we feel like this more often
yeah,
without having to do the medicen, right? And you can,
and
it
knowing I
works.
deserve to feel this way. But I've
Yes.
talked myself into believing there's so many layers and of the onion, right? So it's really just finding spaces and places where you feel comfortable, where you and really do want to explore yourself. And
Yes.
but knowing, we're here to tell you that medicine is just one modality, and there's many such as sound and meditation, mindfulness, all the just light body movement, that can kind of just help bring this practice and learning to work with the medicine when you're sitting with it, and
Mhm.
not, to help with the integration and embodiment,
Yeah.
which I think is the ultimate, um, goal, or one of mine, working with psilocybin.
Yeah. And we've learned, research has proven that after a large ceremony, our brain is more neuroplastic, right? We have this critical learning window, right?
Mhm.
And that's why we talk about microdosing, and we talk about that's when the integration is really so important, right? Because like integration without, or journeying without integration, it's just like everything kind of can fade away. You can kind of go right back to
Mm,
that default mode network. And so this is
mhm.
like to recreate, continue these new pathways and these new brain connections. Like that's why microdosing can be so important. That's why we tell our clients, like, this is a great time to start microdosing.
Yes,
And
couldn't
to
agree more.
reinforce all of the new connections, and to remain intentional,
Mhm.
on in everything we do.
Absolutely, and to your point, again, yeah, I like to say, if you are really hoping to see shift and transformation, and working with this medicine, kind of in full spectrum modality of working with it, um, it is like I like to say, a brain health gym membership for about 4 weeks, where you have committed to this brain health, program that involves intentional exploration, and hopefully working with somebody who can share all of these practices that really bring the experience kind of, holistically together. And I think there is a lot to talk about, so it's,
Oh, so much.
just a joy to to do it here. But yes, I think one common thing that I like to say, it's really, the journey happens after ceremony, if you will.
I like it. I agree with you, Maggie. I think it really does. I think it truly does. I want to actually talk about what lasting change looks like, like give some
Mm,
examples, but I think we have a um, sponsor that you wanted to share for our
yes.
listeners. So do you want to do that now?
Yeah. Yes, I'm gonna do my best to do that right now. I just wanted little, mention, this North Node live episode is brought to you by Wild Rise. And we're gonna take a look here. If you've been craving space to reconnect with yourself, I have something special to share. My friend and collaborator Jen Varale is hosting Wild Rise, Rituals of Renewal, a women's retreat October 16th through the 18th at the stunning Wild Rice Retreat in Bayfield, Wisconsin. It's a weekend of sauna, cold immersion, creativity, nature, and genuine connection, designed to help you to slow down, reset, and return home to yourself. If you register by July 31st, you'll save $400. You can learn more at jenvarale.com/retreats, or find Jen Varale on Instagram.
Beautiful.
Yes, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me too. But we hope to make this a platform where we can share, all sorts of happenings, retreats, and immersions and workshops North Node's putting on, and beyond. So um, thank you for your collaboration, Jen.
Yeah, agreed. So let's just we can pull this all together for everyone,
Mm,
like what lasting change looks like. And we don't know. I mean, you and I we are not sent here from the heavens, but we can, what are some ways people can measure lasting change by? And I think that, we kind of have come up with a great list of a few things. I'm just going to list off a few that I know of, is like deeper, better conversations with the people we love, boundaries, setting healthier boundaries, and that looks like so many different things to so many different people, but like, let's, on a 10,000 foot view, boundaries, that the word is just important, setting healthier boundaries. For me, I'm just more present. Lasting change for me has been a more present Angie.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I think that for me, when I really started to notice my default mode network, my inner critic, my bully, that was a huge revelation for me. And just how much that narrative was occupying my mind when I'm simply trying to have a cup of coffee, with my mom, or it's like it was running the show, and
Totally
I
running the
felt
show.
I had a look of just not happy on my, because I'm engaged with that and not what's in front of my face. So over the course of the past 4 years, yeah, one of my daily intentions and goals is to just simply be present. And even when I'm meditating, it's just like, it's just these simple thoughts. I have nothing to do. I don't, even if I just sit here, and even if my mind is running, I'm at least taking pause and just trying to turn it off, which
Turn it off.
I'm very thankful to have these mindfulness practices, sound, and medicine to help me do so.
Yeah.
And help me to just feel present. And it's such a simple yet extremely difficult. It can be difficult to achieve, but it's a beautiful, beautiful place to start. And again, forever just grateful to this medicine for providing a lot of that, even if it's just a little bit. It's mwah.
Agreed, Maggie. Agreed. Right? Being able to separate from that, and like I talk about it as getting control back. It's and that can look different to different people, but in a way, like, we relinquish ourself to this narrative that is constantly going. And I didn't realize that I was actually separate from that.
Okay.
Until I did the work with the medicine. I thought that was me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It was one and the same. And I think that's how most people go through life. And I truly, like, we're here today to tell you, like, no, you don't have to have that. That's not you. That's not real. That's not authentic. That's not reality at all.
And I do want to be real. It still comes back all the time, but I am prepared for when it happens. And it is usually in the morning for me. I wake up, I feel a little disheveled. It's this kind of like sense that I don't know, but I've come up with practices. Am I reaching for medicine? Hell no. I am simply trying to take a couple breaths, find this place of regulation, feeling centered and not frazzled. And it's like a simple little thing, but it certainly helps me or frames me up to be in, a more present, softer, open scenario than, morning Maggie. But it's something I rely on, and I am forever thankful and grateful just to have that little piece, that little sliver in my mornings, to feel more centered. But yeah, I think all in all, the more we look at this space and this work, there's so many practices that are interwoven. And just because people may have been doing talk therapy for years or their own other therapies, it doesn't mean, I see it as such a powerful tool that just kind of opens perception shift, but also conversation for these people who really truly need relief and they're just simply trying to feel better. I just hope that, or again, if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out, we are here to help in any capacity that we can. And North Node truly is here just to offer spaces and places for intentional exploration. Anything else you want to add, Ange, for today?
No, you said it great. We're here to help, and we're happy to do it. And exactly, that's why North Node exists. Education and place and space.
Education, community, and integration. All righty, guys. We appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much check out explorenorthnode.com, and we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Ciao.